Welcome back to the Burning Empowerment of Your Soul blog series. Your unwavering dedication inspires this movement of faith and empowerment every single week. To our new warriors, welcome. You've joined a bold rallying cry to ignite the purpose that overcomes challenges and rises through power and faith. And together we'll bridge gaps that conquer obstacles and embrace the fire God has placed within us. Before we dive in, don't miss a moment of this transformation. Hit the subscribe button. Turn on your notifications and share this with somebody that is ready to live boldly and to let them rise together with us. Chant it loud. Grace is my strength. Are you ready to face the difficult paths and let God's grace take you further than you ever could imagine? The truth is, greatness is found on the other side of the struggle. Whether it's building your faith, engaging the youth, or bridging gaps between generations, the climb, we always want to test our endurance. But here's the good news. God's grace is sufficient for every single step, because grace is my strength. Our scripture text comes from James chapter 4, verse 6. And this is a powerful reminder of how deeply God's grace transforms us. But he gives more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. This verse highlights a critical truth. Grace flows freely when we set aside our pride and embrace humility. Humility is the key that unlocks grace, and our grace gives us divine power that we need to face life's toughest challenges. When we cling to our pride, we limit ourselves. Pride tells us to rely solely on our strength alone. But divine power, we need to face life's toughest challenges. When we cling to our pride, we limit ourselves. But pride was in traditions that we hold on to. But what happens when we push that pride to the side? And when that pride fails, grace steps in when we admit that we cannot do it alone. This isn't weakness, it's faith in action. Whether we're facing personal struggles, trying to connect with the next generation, or navigating uncharted paths, God's grace is the fuel that pushes us forward. Consider the divide between generations. Businesses often struggle to attract young talent because they rely on outdated practices, refusing to adapt. Churches sometimes hesitate to embrace modern outreach methods, fearing that they might lose tradition. But James chapter 4 and 6 calls us to lay down that fear and to trust in God's grace and to be innovative to transform. Humility doesn't mean compromising our values. It means opening ourselves to new ways of how God can work through us. Grace is the bridge that spans these divides. It's what allows businesses to evolve with technology while maintaining integrity. It's what empowers our churches to meet the youth where they are while staying rooted in the truth of God's words. God's grace doesn't just help us to overcome, but it invites us to thrive by trusting God's limitless supply of wisdom and strength. Let's declare it. Grace is my strength. Our inspiring quote for today: hard days are the best because that's when champions are made, says Gabby Douglas. When you take the difficult path, that's where champions are made. It's not about avoiding the struggle, it's about embracing it, pushing through when others might quit. Eric Thomas and Gabby Douglas said, Eric Thomas reminds us that difficult paths are where true strength is built. These challenges force us to lean on God's grace, which makes all things possible. Grace is my strength. This personal story when Kirk Franklin and Ty Tribbett stepped onto the gospel scene. They both faced intense criticism for blending traditional gospel. They faced intense criticism by blending with some contemporary beats. People said that they were diluting the message, but they knew that God had called them to bridge the generational gap. By embracing change and leaning into God's grace, they brought millions of youth back into the heart of worship, using rhythms and lyrics that spoke directly to the struggles of the youth and their hopes and their dreams. Their boldness reminds us that ministry is not about method, but it's about the message. In the same way, businesses trying to attract the younger generation must step into their digital spaces, adapt their strategies, and meet them where they are. It's not about making excuses, but it's about relying on God's grace to create solutions. Grace is my strength. Bridging the gap, both the church and businesses face a similar challenge connecting with the youth. The issue isn't the lack of desire, but a lack of humility to admit when methods aren't working. James chapter 4 and 6 reminds us to lean into the grace of God instead of our pride. Churches must embrace modern technology, live stream services, interactive apps, and even virtual reality worship. Similarly, businesses must adapt using AI, social media, and youth-led initiatives that create meaningful engagement. These tools are there, but the will to use them effectively starts with humility and grace. Grace is our strength. Embracing the youth. Our youth are not just the future of our churches and organizations, but they are the present as well. They bring energy, creativity, and a perspective that challenges us to grow. It's time to stop seeing them as different ways of thinking or worshiping as a threat and start seeing them as a gift that God has given us. God has a unique design in this generation to meet that challenge of this era, and we are blessed to walk alongside them. We need to create spaces where the youth feel heard, valued, and empowered. This means welcoming their questions, even when they don't seem when it seems to challenge our traditions. It's okay to think that they think differently, but it's okay for them to express their worship in new and unconventional ways. What matters most is that their heart is tuned to God. Let's be intentional about listening to their ideas, understanding their concerns, and embracing their contributions. We look forward to seeing how their voices will shape the church and businesses in their landscapes together. Their willingness to innovate and take risks is something we can all learn from. Imagine what possibilities when the seasoned wisdom and youthful passion come together as one. We are not on opposing teams. We're on the same team to build the Christian community and to build businesses, working together for the same mission, to glorify God and to make an impact. To the youth reading this or hearing our message, we see you, we hear you, we celebrate you. Your ideas and your faith matters to us. You have a place here, and we can't wait to see how God moves in your lives to build our lives and make it better. Let's stand together, united, rooted in grace, and ready to build something extraordinary together, because grace is our strength. What's stopping you from embracing these difficult paths? Is it fear of failure? The comfort of familiar? It's easy to cling to what feels safe, but the truth is growth happens when we step into discomfort. The difficult path is where transformation begins. It's where we discover new strengths, deepen our faith, and unlock opportunities we could have never imagined. The obstacles aren't there to stop us, but they're there to shape us. Are you holding on to old methods, instead of stepping into new solutions. Traditions has its place, but when it becomes a barrier, it can just stifle our progress. Whether you're a pastor trying to connect with Generation Z or a business leader seeking to attract young talent, clinging to outdated methods won't bridge the gap. Take some bold steps forward, embrace the initiative, explore new technologies, and meet people where they are. But of course, to the youth as well, you have to reach back to us as well. God's grace isn't static. It moves within us as we adapt and grow together. How can you humble yourself and let God's grace guide the people that are around you? How can you humble yourself and let God's grace guide in the next move? Humility doesn't mean your weakness. It means recognizing that we don't have all the answers and surrendering our plans to God's greater wisdom. Start by asking the questions for His guidance in prayer, opening your heart to new possibilities, even if they challenge your comfort zone. Trust that His grace will meet you in the uncertain moments of time and empower you to move boldly. The answer is simple yet profound. Start with where you are. Use with what you have and trust God to provide the rest. You don't need perfection to begin, just faith and willingness. Whether you're crafting a new sermon, launching a fresh new business strategy, or simply reaching out to someone who needs connections, God's grace will fill in the gap and take you forward to new possibilities, because grace is my strength. The journey to greatness is never easy, but it's worth it. Champions are forged in the fire and adversity, and grace is the fuel that keeps us going. Whether you're facing personal struggles, ministry challenges, or professional roadblocks, remember that humility unlocks grace, and grace is all that you need to move forward. Connect with us. Empower Your Soul blog series at gmail.com by email, and on YouTube at Burning Empowerment of Your Soul, and our website www.burningempowermentofyoursoul.com. Grace is my strength, because in the end, it's all that comes down to is grace. Changes everything. Whether you're breaking barriers in ministry like Kirk Franklin and Ty Tribbett, or pushing businesses to connect authentically with today's youth, the power of grace fuels transformation. The challenges you face are not roadblocks. They are launching pads to your next level. James chapter 4 and 6 reminds us that God's grace is abundant, enough to humble the proud and elevate the humble. When you stop making excuses and you start letting God move within your life, breakthroughs happen. Let this blog be the battle cry. Champions are forged in the fire of hard days, not in the comfort of ease. Lean into the struggle, embrace the grind, and let grace carry you through. Don't wait for perfection. Progress is the goal. Each step forward, no matter how small, takes you closer to the extraordinary. Troops, the future is yours for the taking, but it starts with bold faith, hard work, and unshakable belief in God's plan for your life. Now go out, armed with grace and grit, and make it happen. And remember, every single step of the way, grace is my strength. The world is waiting for your fire to rise up and claim it. Take care, my friends. Take care, my family. I'll see you next week, Monday at 12. God bless.